Finding active fish can be hard, and when you do, it can be frustrating to fish in a crowd on a busy weekend. Well, mastering flats can solve both of these common problems. I used to avoid fishing flats at all costs. I just didn't understand them. Well, guess what? Filming underwater has changed all of that for me. I now actively look for them. We're going to cover two things: how to find the bass, and then my favorite ways to fish for them. And we'll be looking at lots of examples underwater, so it really clicks for you. Well, first, let's break down how these look when scanning a topo map. There are two examples right here on my Deep Dive app. They are both listed as shallow flats, and we'll get back to this one too, the inside edge of a flat. Now, as you can see, the contour lines are really spread out on flats. They are easy to pick out on topo maps. This example here is a very large flat, and most anglers will skip right by this and work over on this side and the opposite side. But here's my favorite part of bass fishing flats I mentioned earlier, that granted took me a while to learn and be confident in when fishing them. So often, when bass are on flats, they are more actively looking for food. They're actually out moving around and on the hunt. Let's look at this footage from last year. These bass are mixed in with some channel cats, and they are actively hunting down small sunfish. I mean, these are tiny little bait fish. You can see them if you look carefully. And this flat is really big and out in the middle of this part of the lake. And there are bass all over it wanting something to eat, not just loafing around and sitting motionless for hours. Smallmouth will do the same thing on flats. Well, once I figured that out, or I should say observed it again and again, that in itself completely changed my attitude towards trying to figure out this type of structure. Next, let's really take a look underwater at these things. From a topo map, or even just when scanning visually from the shoreline or boat deck, or even on your electronics, flats just seem to be hundreds of yards of the same thing. A featureless void of nothing. But when you look at it from the fish's perspective, from down under the water in their world, a flat has a lot more to it than we realize. This particular flat is a mix of vegetation, silt, and some rock. And the key to finding bass on flats is to think about the term variety, where you can find as many different things in one spot as you can. And it can be more than just different types of cover. It can be the slightest elevation differences in that cover. Look here at how the weeds are at different heights. That is really hard to pick up on a graph sometimes, but down here it's quite clear. And look at this. Suddenly, there is a slight rise in the middle of this flat. Once again, it's out in the middle of this part of the lake, and most people cruise right by it. But as soon as we get to it, boom, there are bass. Now here, right now, these are little guys. But look at this footage from a previous year. This bass was working on a nest on the top of this thing. And of course, finding the edge of a flat where it starts to dip down can be a gold mine of life. I started to cruise this edge, and it took barely any time at all, and I found bass. The same highways, stopping points, or bus stops as I like to call them, that we think about when fishing the shoreline apply here. Here is that inside edge I was talking about earlier. Right where the vegetation stops on the shoreline is another dynamite location. And on lots of natural lakes, this inside edge may be quite a distance out. But what about actually fishing for bass on flats? Well, this situation is literally all about moving, moving, moving until you find them. Even when fishing more finesse types of lures and presentations, use heavier weight. Put a half-ounce jig head in that tube. Use a half-ounce or bigger weight on your drop shot so you can really cover water. Bass on flats are so often in that very bottom part of the water column, I don't want to wait forever for an 1/8 ounce weight to drop. Lipless cranks are awesome for this. Spinner baits are tremendous tools for searching flats. And if it is a shallower flat, let's say less than 15 feet of water, a suspending jerkbait can be an amazing tool to find bass fast all year long. Thank you to the Deep Dive app for sponsoring this video. You can find out more information about them on the Google Play Store, the Apple Store, or follow the link down below. And hey, speaking of great baits to fish flats with, if you want to see a video that tests 15 different soft jerk baits and what they look like underwater, go ahead and check this one out right here. And make sure that you go ahead and encourage someone today. You never know how you might just change their life. For the Bass Fishing Life, I'm your host, Steve Rogers.